So my commercial example. We man the enterprise architecture office at this little-known company that you may have heard of. They are in Virginia, and they're a whole bunch of places around the globe. But beyond just doing their enterprise architecture and manning their enterprise architecture office, we developed, as their service provider, an entire supply chain model that goes around the globe. And I don't know if you've seen the stock and stuff, but I've been to this store a few times in recent past, and they're very, very successful. And the exact numbers and how well they have done this in getting stuff from Europe to Asia to the United States at the right time at the stores in order to put out all of those electronics has been nothing less than incredible. Did we get value? Did they get value out of this? Absolutely. The value and the business value for them has been incredible with their enterprise architecture. So in closing out here, back to basic fundamentals. I'm the simplest. I grew up in western Montana in a huge town of 200 folks, doesn't even have a stoplight. So I'm a pretty simple person. So I always go back to this in enterprise architecture. This is what makes you successful every time, is to keep your mind around that you do have a current environment. Everybody has an enterprise architecture right now in their organization, even if you don't have it documented. Trust me, you have one. Whatever it is, even if it's chaotic, you have one. And don't spend the rest of your life documenting that. You heard Randy this morning. What's really key is not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Randy and those guys really hit customs hard, because when they first started their enterprise architecture, they started with a blank sheet of paper, and they did not look at their current business rules, their current policies, their current practices, and you will fail miserably in enterprise architecture in gaining your value if you don't take the brains of your organization, which is captured in every one of those systems, which are business systems and mission systems, and seeing how much or how many of those through swim lines need to come forward. 10%, 20%, usually it's 30 or 40%, sometimes 70%. So no matter how much you're modernizing and moving to the 21st century, you're going to bring some of that stuff forward, so don't start out from scratch. So in really closing, I would tell you that I think enterprise architecture is good government, and I think enterprise architecture is good business. And I think in starting an enterprise architecture program, there's some essentials. I've always believed you need to have 1/3 government, 1/3 contractor when I was in government, and some IB&V, because you always made sure you were not eating your own dog food and drinking your own Kool-Aid and some of those types of things. But even beyond that, I think it's very, very important that you get the right skill sets. I've heard this skill sets discussion in here today, and I can tell you in setting up 5 different enterprise architectures, because I was a chief architect at the Department of Treasury too, which Felix missed, but that's okay. I was the chief architect at Air Force Space Command, missed that, but that's okay too. I started those offices. And when I started those offices, I was getting resources that maybe weren't the right resources. So I think it's critically important that when you do get an enterprise architecture office, you're getting 18 players, and you're even getting C and B team players, but you're sending them off and getting them trained in order to be successful. All of the architects that originally got into this game had a book or had this Acme framework with no examples or anything to try to get forward. There are resources out there now for you to send your people out to get training. And I know that if you're in the Department of Defense, and no matter what part of the Department of Defense you're in, those airmen, those officers, those Marines, they've been trained, haven't they? We send them out, and they're very trained and they're very equipped. HHS, we have doctors at all these places, Veterans Affairs. And I would suggest to you that if you flew in here, how many of you flew into this conference? Would have it been pretty nerve-wracking to you if you were flying in and you were getting ready to land at Dulles International, or you were getting ready to land at Ronald Reagan, and the pilot came on the thing and said, hey, the pilot wasn't able to show up today, and you probably noticed 495. We've overshot Reagan. I'm actually the stewardess, and I'm going to put this baby down on 495. I'm not certain if we're going to be successful, so I just kind of want you guys all to brace. Those pilots go through a lot of training to get certified, don't they? And you want them to be certified. You want to be successful when you're along with them. But it also goes to how many been out to Nova Fairfax? Anybody been there late at night and they have to do on-call doctors and stuff? Wouldn't it suck if you had a heart attack and the janitor comes walking up and said, you know, I've been in there cleaning while they were doing surgery. Can't seem to reach the surgeon, and I'm going to give it my best shot. I know those are very extreme examples, but I think competencies in this business, because you are doing the critical brains of the organization, and you are the one creating the mission effects, you are creating the capabilities, and you are creating the business value, that it's extremely important that you have the right people and they do have the competencies that you need to be successful. Thank you.